Be prepared. Mercury isn't just entering Gemini tomorrow. It's stepping into the most mentally charged portal we've faced in months. And while everyone's busy chasing ideas, conversations, and quick decisions, the real shift is happening beneath the noise. You'll feel it first in your thoughts, racing, looping, spiraling, as if clarity is slipping through your fingers. But here's the truth. This isn't chaos. It's a mirror. A reflection of every unspoken fear, every unresolved story, every mental pattern you've been too busy to face. And Mercury in Gemini isn't here to clean it for you. It's here to magnify it, so you can finally see what you've been dragging forward. The question is, will you clear it before it clears you? Because if you don't, this mental flood will sweep you off course. The mind has been restless lately, hasn't it? That low hum of thoughts buzzing at the edge of focus, ideas circling back to themselves, memories resurfacing without warning, conversations looping like they've forgotten how to end. It's not random, it's Mercury, the planet of thought, communication, mental agility, and chaos when left unchecked. And as it prepares to step into Gemini, its home sign, the energy is gathering like static in the air. Not loud yet, but insistent, like an undercurrent waiting to pull you in. Have you felt it? That strange mental tension building beneath the surface, the way simple decisions suddenly feel layered with invisible resistance? The mind's usual pathways don't feel as clear as they did last week. And that's not because you're slipping, it's because the current is shifting. Mercury in Gemini isn't just an astrological event, it's a portal. One that opens your mind to new frequencies, new ideas, and new distractions. It's the double-edged sword of mental clarity and confusion. On one side, the possibility of insight, communication, and learning. On the other, the trap of overthinking, decision paralysis, and mental exhaustion. And tomorrow, as Mercury fully crosses into Gemini, the shift becomes unmistakable. Your mind may race faster. Your focus may scatter. Old conversations may echo louder as if demanding closure. Random bits of information, memories, and emotions might surge to the forefront, pulling you into mental spirals. The temptation will be to chase the noise, to grab onto every thought, every distraction, every invitation to talk, text, analyze. But what if the real power is in stepping back? What if Mercury isn't pulling you into mental chaos, but showing you where your mental field is cluttered? Can you feel it? That edge between clarity and confusion, where the urge to do more masks the deeper call to do less? Because here's the hidden truth. Mercury in Gemini doesn't create distraction, it reveals it. It peels back the layers of mental patterns you've been carrying. The endless to-do lists, the running commentary, the self-talk that whispers doubts while you're trying to focus. This isn't just about astrology, it's about your relationship with your own mind. And tomorrow the invitation isn't to speed up, it's to clear out, to make space for the clarity that Mercury can offer, but only if you're willing to release the static. What thoughts have you been carrying that aren't yours? What mental loops have you been trapped in because they feel familiar, not because they're true? As Mercury moves into Gemini, the challenge isn't to think faster or smarter. It's to pause, to notice the clutter, to ask yourself, am I thinking or am I just reacting? Because this shift isn't just mental, it's energetic. Your mind is a channel, and what you allow through it becomes your reality. Mercury's entrance into Gemini is a test of discernment, not to see how much you can handle, but to show you how much you can release. So as the mental energy rises tomorrow, don't rush to fill the space. Step back, breathe, ask yourself, what thoughts deserve my attention? And what noise am I finally ready to let go of? Because clarity doesn't come from chasing every thought. It comes from choosing which ones deserve to stay. Why you're feeling mentally scattered. There's a certain kind of chaos that doesn't scream. It hums beneath the surface, quiet, insistent, relentless. That's the energy many of us are swimming in right now. As Mercury shifts into Gemini, the mental volume turns up. But it's not loudness you'll notice first. It's the scatter. The tiny thoughts that dart in and out. Ideas that vanish as quickly as they appear. The vague feeling that something needs attention, but you can't quite name it. Have you felt it? That edge of distraction where your mind feels like it's buffering? You open your phone, and by the time it unlocks, you forget why you picked it up. You start a conversation and lose your train of thought halfway through. You reread a message twice and still can't absorb it. This isn't just forgetfulness, it's energetic interference. Mercury in Gemini is a magnifier of mental activity. It doesn't create the noise, it reveals the noise you've been carrying. All the unchecked thoughts, the open loops, the stories you've been telling yourself without realizing it. And as the energy shifts, these patterns become harder to ignore. Your mind isn't malfunctioning, it's overloaded, processing not just the present, but echoes from the past. Regrets, worries, unfinished conversations, decisions you thought you made, but your subconscious never really let go. Have you caught yourself drifting into memories that don't feel relevant? Or worrying about things you can't control? That's Mercury showing you the backlog. Not to drown you in it, but to clear it. But here's the challenge, and it's a big one. In a world that rewards constant thinking, movement, and productivity, stepping back feels counterintuitive. When the mind races, we're taught to keep up, to think faster, plan harder, push through. But this week, that approach backfires. Because the more you chase the noise, the louder it gets. The more you try to think your way out of mental fog, the deeper into it you spiral. Mercury in Gemini isn't asking for more ideas. It's asking for more space. Can you give yourself permission to pause? To step away from the scrolling, the planning, the analyzing? Can you trust that clarity will come after the quiet, not during the noise? Because this isn't just mental exhaustion, it's energetic bandwidth collapse. Your system is telling you, I can't carry all of this anymore. And that's not failure, that's evolution. This is the point where you're invited to release the need to have it all figured out, to recognize that not every thought deserves your attention, that not every idea needs to be chased. Ask yourself, what thoughts have I been holding on to just because they're familiar? Am I ready to let go of mental patterns that don't serve me, even if I don't know what will replace them yet? Mercury in Gemini will flood the mind with options, questions, ideas. But you don't have to answer them all. You don't even have to understand them all. Your power is in discernment, in stepping back from the swirl and saying, this thought doesn't belong to me. And when you do, you'll feel the shift. The space where clarity can finally land, the quiet that isn't empty, it's ready. How to create space for clarity? It's one thing to recognize the mental scatter. It's another to know what to do with it. The instinct is to fight the noise, to wrestle the mind into submission, to create order out of chaos by sheer force of will. But Mercury in Gemini laughs at force. It multiplies thoughts like a mirror reflecting itself into infinity. The more you push, the more it fragments. So what do? You step back, not in defeat, but in understanding. Because the mind isn't a machine that needs fixing. It's a field, a channel. And right now, that field is full of static. Have you noticed how trying to control your thoughts only makes them louder? How trying to focus through the fog leaves you more exhausted than before? That's not because you're doing it wrong. It's because the method itself is outdated. Mercury in Gemini invites a different approach. Not a tightening of focus, but a widening of awareness. Not grasping for thoughts, but watching them, letting them rise, letting them fall. Without attaching, without chasing, without labeling. This isn't passivity, it's precision. Because clarity doesn't come from forcing the mind into stillness. It comes from allowing the noise to settle on its own. Imagine standing by a pond after a storm. The water is muddy, churned up, unclear. You don't clear it by grabbing handfuls of water and trying to squeeze out the mud. You clear it by waiting, by letting the sediment fall, by allowing stillness to return. What thoughts, memories, or fears have been stirred up in your mind this week? Can you let them settle without rushing to interpret or fix them? Because in that stillness, the truth emerges. Not in a flood of answers, but in a quiet knowing. Mercury's shift into Gemini isn't just about information. It's about discernment. The ability to recognize what's yours and what isn't. To hear your own voice beneath the static of expectation and conditioning. This week, clarity is less about thinking and more about listening. Listening not to the loudest thought, but to the space between thoughts. Not to the external noise, but to the internal whisper. And yes, it can feel uncomfortable. The mind doesn't like silence. It fills it with worry, distraction, endless commentary. But if you can sit through that discomfort, even for a few moments, you'll find something rare and powerful waiting for you. Stillness that doesn't need to be filled. Ask yourself, am I willing to sit in this space long enough for clarity to find me? What might I hear if I stop trying to listen so hard? This is the work of clearing the static, not by silencing the mind, but by creating an environment where it can quiet itself. Not by eliminating thoughts, but by releasing the need to chase them. When Mercury fully enters Gemini, the mental static will amplify. But that doesn't mean you have to be swept away. You can stand in the center of the storm and remember, clarity isn't about controlling the wind. It's about knowing where your ground is. And that ground is within you. Always was. In the midst of all this mental noise, there's a quiet invitation rising. Not loud, not obvious, but persistent. A pull beneath the static, calling you to reconnect with something you might have forgotten, your true voice. Mercury in Gemini has a reputation for chatter, communication, connection. But often, that chatter becomes a barrier, a way to fill the space, to avoid the quiet truths that only emerge in silence. Have you noticed it? That tendency to over-explain, to seek validation, to speak just to fill the air, to mask uncertainty with opinions, decisions, plans. But underneath that noise is something softer, a whisper of your own frequency, a voice that doesn't shout or argue. It simply knows. And this week, Mercury isn't just amplifying thoughts, it's testing alignment. Are you speaking from your true self, or from the version of you that the world has taught to perform? Are your words carrying resonance or just repetition? This isn't about being silent. It's about speaking from the center, from the grounded knowing that doesn't need to prove itself. You might feel the urge to over-communicate right now, to check in, to post, to explain. But ask yourself, what am I really trying to say? Who am I saying it for? Because the temptation to speak louder often comes from fear. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of being forgotten. Fear of not being heard. But Mercury in Gemini is offering a different path, the path of discernment, of knowing when to speak and when to listen, of recognizing that not every message needs to be shared, that some truths are sacred enough to be held within until they're fully formed. Have you felt the difference between speaking to connect and speaking to distract? That subtle tension where your words don't quite land, where the conversation feels like it's circling something deeper that no one wants to name? This is that moment. The space between chatter and truth, the edge where your real voice waits beneath the scripts and patterns. Mercury's entrance into Gemini isn't just a mental shift, it's a spiritual test of integrity, a challenge to align your words with your essence, not to speak more, but to speak honestly. And sometimes, that honesty sounds like silence, like a pause before responding, like choosing not to explain yourself, like feeling the urge to share and deciding instead to hold it until it resonates from within. This isn't about withdrawal, it's about intentional communication. Because when you reconnect with your true voice, you'll notice something profound. The static quiets, the mental swirl slows, the space opens. And in that space, the real clarity arrives, not as a shout, but as a knowing, a wordless sense of alignment. Ask yourself, what truth have I been avoiding by filling the space with noise? What would my voice say if I let it speak from stillness instead of fear? This is Mercury's subtle invitation to speak from the center, to connect from authenticity, to let the static fall away and stand in the power of your own frequency. How Mercury's energy is rewiring your mind. Something deeper is happening beneath the surface of all this noise. It's not just about mental chatter. It's about the subtle, almost imperceptible rewiring that Mercury in Gemini initiates. Your mind isn't just processing more information right now. It's being stretched, tested, exposed to patterns it no longer fits into. Have you felt it? That strange sense of disorientation, like your usual thoughts don't quite fit anymore. Like the mental grooves you've relied on are being smoothed out, forcing you to find new ways of thinking, new connections, new pathways. This isn't random, it's recalibration. Mercury in Gemini doesn't just throw new ideas at you for entertainment, it's nudging you. Sometimes gently, sometimes with a mental shove, to upgrade your thinking, to move out of the loops that kept you small, reactive, distracted, and into the kind of mental agility that can adapt without losing center. But here's the twist. This rewiring doesn't feel smooth. It feels like static, like confusion, like moments of, why can't I think straight? That's because the old mental structures are being dismantled piece by piece. The paths of least resistance are being closed. The patterns of self-doubt, of overthinking, of reactive decisions, they're being disrupted. And the discomfort you're feeling? That's the resistance of your old wiring being unplugged. Have you caught yourself second-guessing everything this week? Feeling both inspired and paralyzed, like ideas are flooding in, but none of them stick? That's Mercury in Gemini playing its cosmic role, not to punish you, but to prepare you, to make space for new frequencies of thought, for ways of processing, perceiving, and deciding that align with the person you're becoming. But here's the key. You can't force this rewiring. You can't decide overnight to think differently, to operate on a higher frequency. You can only create the conditions for it to happen naturally. And those conditions require space, stillness, a willingness to let go of the thoughts you've outgrown, even if you don't know what will replace them yet. Are you willing to trust the process, to sit with the discomfort of not knowing, not deciding, not fixing? Because the mind doesn't shift because you tell it to. It shifts because you stop forcing it to be what it was. Because you allow the noise to fade, the static to dissolve, the new connections to form in the silence. And yes, this can feel messy. You might feel like you're forgetting things, like you're losing your edge, but you're not. You're releasing the need to control every thought. And in that release, you're creating space for something bigger to land. Something that isn't about proving or perfecting. It's about being. About letting the mind realign with the energy of clarity, not through effort, but through surrender. Ask yourself, what mental patterns have I been holding on to out of habit, not truth? Am I ready to let them go? Even if it means sitting in the discomfort of the unknown. Mercury in Gemini isn't just a transit, it's a reset, a portal where your mind gets to drop the weight of who it thought it had to be and step into the quiet power of who you actually are. When the noise fades, when the static settles, when the thoughts stop chasing themselves, there's a moment of stillness. A breath that feels like it's been waiting for you for longer than you can remember. That's not emptiness, it's realignment. Mercury's shift into Gemini isn't here just to stir mental patterns. It's here to clear the space for something deeper to take root. A recalibration not just of the mind, but of the spirit. Have you noticed it yet? That feeling like your usual distractions no longer satisfy? Like the conversations you used to lean on feel shallow, disconnected? That's not boredom. It's your spirit waking up to the clutter it's been living with. Mercury's gift isn't just mental clarity, it's energetic sovereignty. The realization that your mind isn't just a processor of thoughts, but a receiver of frequencies. That every idea you entertain, every conversation you engage in, every thought you allow to linger, it shapes your energy field. And right now, as Mercury dances through Gemini, your field is being rewired. But here's the paradox. The more you chase clarity, the more it eludes you. Clarity isn't something you grab, it's something you allow. It arrives when you stop trying to control it, when you stop chasing it through distraction, reaction over analysis. Are you ready to let go of the mental habits that make you feel busy but leave you feeling empty? Are you willing to trust that in the space where thought ends, clarity begins? This isn't about forcing yourself into silence. It's about creating the conditions where the mind can naturally settle. It's about honoring the moments when you feel the urge to check out, to go quiet, to be alone. Not as avoidance, but as a sacred retreat. Because in those moments, something profound happens. You start hearing the whispers of your own truth, the messages that were drowned out by the noise, the guidance that doesn't shout but waits patiently in the quiet. And here's the final revelation. Mental clarity isn't the goal, it's the gateway, the opening through which your spirit realigns with its own frequency, where your mind and soul stop battling for dominance and start dancing in harmony. Have you been craving that kind of alignment? That feeling of not just thinking clearly, but being clear? This is your moment. Not to rush into answers or decisions, but to trust the pause, to honor the space, to recognize that clarity isn't an achievement, it's a return to yourself, to the you that exists beneath the noise, the labels, the patterns, the you that Mercury and Gemini is calling you back to. So as this shift unfolds, let yourself release the need to figure it all out. Let the thoughts settle. Let the mind breathe. And in that breath, you'll find something you didn't know you were missing. Clarity as a portal to your soul,